Everybody, and welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be discussing and breaking down the entire known history of the Scorching, which is the most important event in Pyrrhian history because of how it changed things for thousands of years to come. Before the Flames of Hope, our knowledge on the subject was pretty limited. All we had were some mentions of it, but nothing truly concrete. When the Arc 3 finale came out, we were given a ton more information that truly shed some light on this time period. Since the Scorching can be a lot to unpack, I'll be going through its entire known history and sharing what we do know and what we still don't. This video will contain spoilers for the Flames of Hope, so if you have not yet read that book, then please click off. Also, before I begin, a huge shout out to my patrons, 3 Moons and 𝙈𝙤𝙁𝙁𝙁. Thank you both so much for supporting me. Links to their social medias are in the description down below. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the video. The Scorching took place around 5,000 years before the events of the Dragonite Prophecy. At the time, humans were the dominant life form on Pyrrhia. They had their own empires and cities, and had been prospering greatly. Dragons were never seen as much of a threat, and they typically minded their own business and just raised their dragonets. The humans never truly seemed satisfied with how life was, and began having territorial disputes. Each of the 3 empires wanted to gain advantage over the others, seeking new weapons to have more control. And that's where things truly begin. Cottonmouth, a scientist who was later appointed to the role of advisor by the Emperor, came up with the plan to have ultimate power. He thought by raising dragons from birth to become weapons, they'd have full control over the beasts. The plan was thought to be genius, and very soon after, Cottonmouth and the rest of the Empire began stealing dragon eggs and attempting to tame the babies inside. It didn't take long for the neighboring empires to catch wind of their plan and do the same. But the cruel attempts to tame these dragonets went badly wrong. There were tons of injuries, and everything seemed to fail. The different methods became more and more violent and brutal. The dragons who had their eggs stolen from them were outraged at the humans. And after years of this happening and dozens of eggs being taken, the previously disorganized dragons grouped together for retribution, wishing to wipe out all the humans. And so, they scorched the human cities and empires. They were no match to the large creatures of the sky, and their wrath was unending. It's unknown how many casualties there were, but human society was never able to recover. Anything built afterwards was a mere fraction of the size of what had been. People were taught to fear and hate the dragons, and this unrest remained for thousands of years. But this wasn't the end. Cottonmouth wanted to finish what he had started, and he wasn't going to stop. He and a small group of survivors managed to make their way across the sea, where they tried continuing their experiments, eventually coming in contact with the other mind. Back on Pyrrhia, the entire continent had changed. Dragons had seen what they had done while united, and eventually formed tribes and appointed queens. Soon after, the dragon population began to outnumber that of the humans. Both species recorded the history of the Scorching differently. To the humans, the dragons were vile monsters who could never be tamed, and had taken away their homes and killed their families. But to the dragons, the story nearly changed entirely. In fact, Webb's even pointed out that the Scorching may be more like a fairy tale due to how unlikely it was for scavengers to have been as advanced as the story says. And that's it for the Scorching. After years of turmoil, it all came to a close and the dragons banded together to get their revenge. Their societies began to flourish while the humans regressed. We don't know all the details just yet, but the Flames of Hope provided a lot of useful information in sharing this important piece of history. Dewey has said that she may write a Legends book about the Scorching someday, but information on it will be revealed in the guidebook. There are plenty of things teased that we'll soon find out, like the origin of Annis magic and the first tribe, which Tui said are Scorching-based questions. There is a little bit that we can pick apart from what we've learned so far. The Flames of Hope teased the possibility that maybe Cottonmouth and his group were followed across the sea by Pyrrhian dragons who would later inhabit Pantala, which does explain how they got there in the first place. After all, the original Pantalan tribes, especially Beetlewings, resembled ones from Pyrrhia. It's unknown exactly what the first tribe was or how dragons were at the time of the Scorching, but freedom can be used as a little bit of a reference. Freedom seems to be a combination of a lot of the tribes, so this is likely how dragons were at the time. Before there were official tribes, they probably would just mate with whoever they could find. And as they formed these groups, they slowly began to develop similar traits that merged enough over thousands of years. Eventually, dragons from the same tribe developed similar appearances through evolution. This hasn't been said outright, but it's the most plausible explanation we can get. But with more coming in the guidebook and maybe even potential Legends book, I'm very excited and curious to see what comes next. My thoughts for the guidebook is that the dragons and humans will work together to piece the recorded histories they have and see what matches or assume what really happened if it isn't exactly clear. What do you guys think? Do you have any theories on the Scorching? Let me know down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.